Welcome to The Explainer. Let's just dive right into a massive headache pretty much every manufacturing plant is dealing with right now, the frontline leadership gap. Today we're going to unpack a targeted program called Shift 5, and we'll look at exactly how it works and why it approaches this stubborn problem so differently.
Okay, picture this. You've got this technically brilliant operator, right? You promote them to manager, and instantly they stumble. It's like throwing someone into the deep end of a pool without a single swim lesson. It's a paradox that plagues plants all over the world. You give your absolute best machine operator a new title, and suddenly the whole team's performance just drops. So why does that happen?
Well, here is our game plan for today. To figure that out, we're going to hit 5 key areas. First, unpacking that frontline leadership gap. Then, introducing the Shift 5 solution. Walking through its 5-week journey. Looking at how to measure what actually matters. And finally, exploring the accountability and pilot options.
All right, Section 1, the frontline leadership gap. Why everyday behaviors dictate manufacturing performance.
You know exactly how this goes. We promote these rockstar operators without any real leadership prep. And honestly, it sets off this entire domino effect. You start seeing weak communication routines, shift handovers become a total mess, and then engagement just tanks. That leads to early attrition and absenteeism. It creates these massive recognition gaps that slowly eat away at the team's discretionary effort, and ultimately, you end up with operator-supervisor friction that just keeps escalating. The reality is, these recurring issues are actually behavioral and design problems, not just simple training gaps.
Moving right along to Section 2, introducing the Shift 5 solution, a behavioral design solution specifically for the Indian manufacturing context.
So what actually is Shift 5? Well, it's an organizational development or OD journey, but here's the kicker. It's delivered deliberately over just 1 day a week for 5 weeks. It was designed by Monica Roy, who has 18 years of deep L&OD experience across corporate and manufacturing floors. So this is a targeted, data-backed intervention. We are not talking about a temporary Band-Aid or some quick weekend seminar here.
Think about traditional training for a second. It's usually a one-off, isolated event, right? Nobody really measures the outcomes, and it's mostly about cramming information into your head to pass a quiz. Well, Shift 5 completely flips the script. It's a continuous applied behavioral journey. It integrates continuous on-the-job practice and is anchored by a really strict 60-day post-intervention impact review. The entire focus is on actually changing behavior on the shop floor.
Let's unpack how that actually works in Section 3, the 5-week behavioral journey, a day-by-day continuous practice loop.
Okay, so after a pre-work baseline is set, this 5-week journey gets right into the trenches. Day 1 is all about building a solid foundation and establishing their new role identity. Day 2 gets super operational. We're talking communication, structured handovers, running huddles. Day 3 pivots to engagement and recognition, which is honestly what operators need to actually stay. Day 4 tackles collaboration and resolving those inevitable floor conflicts. And Day 5 locks the whole thing in with concrete 60-day action plans. But honestly, the real magic happens right between those sessions, because this is a continuous practice loop. Participants literally take what they learned, walk back out onto the manufacturing floor, and apply it. Then they come back the following week and say, okay, this worked great, or nope, that completely failed, and they figure out exactly what organizational barriers were standing in their way.
Which brings us to Section 4. Measuring what actually matters, the Kirkpatrick and Phillips framework applied.
Now, if you're a CHRO or a business leader, credibility is absolutely everything. You need proof. So, using a streamlined version of the globally recognized Kirkpatrick framework, this actually measures the chain of impact. Level 2 checks learning using pre- and post-scenario evaluations. Level 3 looks at behavior, using 180-degree checklists on 10 to 12 everyday routines. And finally, Level 4 is results. It directly ties these new behaviors to trends in turnover, absenteeism, and whatever operational KPIs you've agreed on.
To put some hard numbers to it, based on 18 years of field data, you can typically expect a 15 to 20% improvement in supervisor behavior ratings when you average it out across the cohort. And you know, that's not just some nice number on a spreadsheet. It's a massive, palpable shift in the actual daily dynamics on the factory floor.
On top of that, there's usually a 10 to 15 percentage point leap in frontline pulse survey scores. These anonymous surveys track the stuff that really matters. Do the operators feel respected? Are they getting recognition? And crucially, what is their intent to stay with the organization? Which is arguably the most important metric of all.
And the absolute best part is,
All of this is formally reviewed exactly 60 days post-intervention. So you're not just crossing your fingers and hoping the training stuck. You are verifying sustained change 2 months out, tying those vital soft skills directly to hard business timelines.
All right, our final stretch. Section 5, Accountability and Pilot Options, putting skin in the game.
So how do you actually get started? The most pragmatic approach is a pilot cohort of about 18 to 20 frontline leaders. It takes roughly 60 to 65 hours of professional time. What's fantastic here is the format flexibility. If a full day is going to wreck your production schedule, no problem. Half days or virtual touchpoints can easily be arranged. Doing a pilot first totally right-sizes the approach, so you can validate if it's a fit for your specific plant before scaling it. For a standard pilot cohort at a single location, the professional fee comes in at 2,50,000 rupees, and that covers the whole shebang, from the initial pre-diagnostics, through all 5 workshop days, the measurement tools, right down to that final 60-day impact review. But here is where it gets really interesting and, honestly, super innovative. There is an optional impact-linked fee structure. You can choose to fix 75% of the fee and then tie the remaining 25% directly to those agreed-upon behavioral improvements we talked about. The practitioner is putting real skin in the game right alongside you.
I absolutely love this quote directly from the source material. It says, "The willingness to put part of the fee at risk reflects confidence in the Shift 5 design, not an experimental approach with the client's budget." That really speaks volumes, doesn't it? It signals a genuine, shared ownership of the outcomes, backed up by Monica Roy's extensive time in the field.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to take a hard look at your own plant floor and ask yourself this provocative question. Is your frontline training actually changing everyday behavior, or are you guys just checking a compliance box? Because if it's the latter, well, it might be time to rethink how you're supporting the people who actually run your lines. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack all this today.